So I am grateful and I'm honored. Again, for those of you who heard, Brent Turner and I met in the back of the bus in an ag tour this past June in Montana, and the rest is history under the way being written. So I'll turn it over to Maggie to get some introductions out here. And just I want to thank my new good friend and great colleague, and one that I learned a lot from, Brent Turner. So Maggie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jess. Yes, we are very excited and welcome to have Brent Turner with Agri-Generational with us this morning. We're doing things just a little different. I do see that we do have quite a few board members on. Of course, I see President Justin Tupper, Vice President Whitney Klasna. On the phone with us is Board of Director Curtis Thomas. So thank you guys so much for joining us here today, as well as Morgan and Matthew and all the others here. As Jess was mentioning, we do record these, and these will be posted onto our YouTube channel, and then also where you can find it on our website at uscattlemans.org. Another few quick reminders. We are getting ready to roll out our annual meeting. This year, we're going to be taking it to Manhattan, Kansas, January 20th through the 23rd. Registration isn't quite open, but you can go up there, go onto the website, and at least get your hotels and everything booked if you're interested. We'll be rolling out with agenda details here shortly as things kind of get put in place as well. With those comments, again, Brent Turner with Agri-Generational, native of Tennessee, went to University of Tennessee at Martin with a degree in animal science. He is currently based out of Columbus, Montana, and I will take it over to him to do any further introduction of himself and get going with the program today.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you a bunch. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be presenting to one of the most prestigious cattle legislative organizations, grassroots organizations in the country, and it's just an honor for me. And so I'm delighted because you're my audience. You're the folks that I like to talk to, and you're folks that I enjoy working with. And I got a degree in animal science way back in the early '90s, and I didn't know I was unemployable. Really, truthfully, nobody wants to employ me. It's I'm a free thinker in a lot of areas, but I took my passion and I found out what I was good at, and I found out that I was good at facilitating, educating, and facilitating and coaching, and I tried to find a career that would kind of fit that, and so I just got into the financial services industry. I wanted to start helping families with financial plans and that sort of thing. So I started my business when I was 22 years old. I started with nothing, and I got most of it left. But anyway, it's I spent 30 something years working with families, helping them with building their businesses, getting out of their businesses, getting the most out of their business. Finding money that they were losing unknowingly and unnecessarily. I just had spent 30 something years doing that, and I sold part of my business a couple of years ago, and I went back to school for family enterprise advisory. And that's a plan up. It's a school up in Canada. It's a year-long school, but it's designed to help mostly family offices manage the assets, not just financial assets, but more importantly, the human assets of an enterprise. And so I started building Agri-Generational through that school. And Agri-Generational is a planning firm with specific emphasis on multi-generational planning for farmers and ranchers across America. And what's really exciting is that the timing was right on this, because most farmers and ranchers, if you look at the demographics, they're aging out. A lot of them are aging out. It's time for major transitions. Here's the other part of that. The other part of that is the stakes are higher than they've ever been. And most real estate that farmers and ranchers utilize has increased in value to the point it's very, very, very hard to enter this industry. The barrier to entry is almost impossible anymore for somebody who just wants to start farming and ranching. So we have to continue these enterprises. And the easiest and most cost efficient way to begin an enterprise is to keep an enterprise and to keep these families intact and producing as an ongoing operation, because once a generation in this industry is lost, it never comes back. Farming and ranching is really unique. It's always been a lineage type industry, but now with the increased pressures to liquidate and sell, to use those properties for something else, is higher than it's ever been. So I've got an inborn fondness for ag families, and I do not want to see that interruption. So what I'm doing is I'm helping these families put together the plans, start to finish, so that they can continue their enterprise ongoing. And we work in a different area. Most folks, when they start doing an estate plan, first step they do is they go to the lawyer and they buy a will or they buy a trust and call it good. What we don't deal with are the other areas of their enterprise that can pretty much derail any plan. And unless your family is unique, almost all families that I work with have some degree of conflict within them. And conflict is really it's an unnecessary component of any type of enterprise. And so I'm not a conflict manager. I have those people on speed dial, but I'm not a conflict manager. I am trained to identify it, but I do not pretend to be a psychologist to help through that process. But anyway, there's basically 5 areas that we work with. Financial planning, which I've done for decades, is where I start, because math is unemotional most of the time. For me, it's unemotional, but for some folks it is. But it doesn't lie, and I can start with math, and then I help them find money that they're losing inside their ranch. But it also gives me a chance to find out what's going on there. And where's money flowing? Where's money going? Who's getting money? And then we look at, is there tax planning we need to do? I'm not an accountant, but I've got a lot of tax planning classes behind me. I've got a pretty good working knowledge of the tax code, but I'm also just looking for ways that we can reduce taxes legally in their enterprise. And then we look at liquidity planning. Hey, what needs to happen here? What, if we got non-farming heirs that don't want to be a part of the ranch, they want to check at distribution time. So do we need to plan for cash to have a buyout arrangement, so that those that want to stay on the ranch and work and continue the enterprise can, and not be interrupted by those that don't? And that's a huge factor. So, and then if there's conflict involved, we try to get in front of that. And again, I don't resolve it. I just try to figure out who to get in touch with them and get them in the process where they can continue on with less conflict. Because conflict causes money. It costs a lot of money. And I mean, it's expensive. If you and your siblings are fighting, now wait till somebody dies. Then they take the gloves off. And I mean, it gets serious. And so, that one person lawyers up, and then the other person lawyers up, and the next thing you know, you've got $800 an hour times however many kids you got there fighting. And you can erode an enterprise estate value in a hurry by just having that conflict. So it's unnecessary, and it doesn't get resolved if you lawyer up. So the best thing we can do is to get in front of that and let somebody that knows what they're doing. I personally love to use Elaine Fries and her team up in Canada. Elaine is a friend of mine. She is the foremost authority, in my opinion, on harmony and conflict management. And I just, I bring Elaine in to help with that, because it's money in your pocket when you get that resolved. You still don't have to like them, but we do have to resolve it. But anyway. And then the last thing we do is we go to governance. So, the ideal situation for me is we get started, we find out what's really going on underneath the surface. What's the main thing with the enterprise? And then we build from that. So if I can get all that put together for them, and then I can get them to the attorney and have the attorney go, well, what do we need to do? I said, well, I've interviewed all family members. I know what the plan is what we want to get done because we've spent a couple of months getting ready to get here, and then lay that out in front of the attorney and say, all right, draw the documents that says this. And if you can do that, you've saved thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on legal bills, and you've got what you need, and you've got arrangements set up to buy this person out or sell this person, and so it's really it's a process, and it's a duplicatable process. So your family is different and more unique than anybody else's in the country, but it's pretty much the same. That help, Jess?
That's spot on.
Let's talk a little bit about the book. How about that?
I lost you.
My book, Piece of Land.
Yes.
When
Well,
I
get
say
into
the
this
process
book.
is duplicatable,
Get into this book, because then we're going to talk about it. Then the questions happen. So you get a book overview, and then the questions happen. And I've got a stack of them here. So now let's get in the book here.
here's what. Oh, thank you, Maggie. So, Piece of Land is a book I wrote this year, and it was, everybody asked, how'd you write this book? I said, well, it's simple. It's really actually simple because it's the same story that I hear every day. And it's the same. So I built a fictional family, Tom and Martha Hartwell. It's actually based on the Front Range of Colorado, and it's really cool because when people read it, they go, "That's my family." And I say, "Yeah, I know." It's got kind of the same story. But Tom Hartwell has been ranching on the Front Range of Colorado for he was generation 3, I guess, or 3 or 4, and he's just doing his thing, and he's wearing a bunch of hats. And so to help people understand what's going on, Tom is he's wearing the CEO hat. He's running the ranch. It's his ranch, and he's got his CEO hat on, and he's making all the decisions. And then he goes out there and he gets his other hat, his COO hat, and he puts that one on, and he wears his COO hat, and he goes to work, and he feeds his cows and does his thing, and making all the operational decisions on the ranch. And then he comes home at night and he puts on his other hat, and that's his CFO hat. And now he's keeping all his records and trying to figure out how to make a living. And he's got his, he's just making all these decisions. And then he gets his crop ready, his hay ready, or his cattle ready to go. And then he says, well, how the heck am I going to market this stuff? So then he puts on his chief marketing hat. And so he's wearing all these hats, and he has a heart attack. And he can't do all those anymore. And so they're really in a quandary because the rancher next door he has a similar event, and he sells all his stuff. So Tom has to start figuring out, how am I going to do all these things? Well, what he forgets is that he's got some help around there. He's got a son that's 30 years old and has never been invited to wear any of these hats. And this does get cumbersome, I promise. So I'm going to take them off, but you get the picture. So in that process, somebody said, hey, you need to talk to Big Mac McAllister. And Big Mac McAllister is a guide. He's basically he's a coach, he's an educator, he's a facilitator, and he looks a lot like me. He's taller than I am in the book, but he comes in and starts working with the family, and he starts identifying unique abilities that each person has, and he interviews all of the family members just like I do. I mean, it's the same process, and he said, hey, after he gets through with all of these interviews, and he comes back for a themes meeting and says, hey, Tom, I figured out that after talking to your wife, that she's been listening to these financial conversations that you've been having for over 40 years. and you've never invited her to be a part of this. And come to find out, she's actually pretty gifted with financial acumen. And I think that she needs to become the CFO of the operation. So Martha takes on a new role as the CFO. And she's wearing one hat. So that's one less hat that Tom has to wear every day. And so Martha is, she steps right in the role, but she's never been invited to be a part of that. Excuse me. Very common. And then he says, hey, I've interviewed Jake, your son, and Jake is actually, he's a pretty good rancher. And he is, he's skilled at this. He's been watching you, but on the side, he's been studying because he's got ideas to bring to the operation that you're not listening to yet. And I think Jake is ready to step into another hat. And so he does. And they send him to school. They send him to other ranches to learn how they do things, and then bring that information back. So Jake was more than equipped to become the new COO of the enterprise. And he said, I've interviewed your daughter, and Sarah went off to college. She went to Denver to school, and she became, got a degree in marketing, and she's got, she's working for a large marketing firm, but she really, really wants to be back on the ranch. And, but she didn't want to challenge her brother for his position on the ranch. But I think she's got some ideas that can help us. And so they delegate, after they find out that she really is skilled at that, they make her the chief marketing officer. Now, I know these hats are figurative, they're just figuratively, but at the same time, there's unique abilities on your ranch that you can utilize that you're not. And so what happened is, now, just like any bank in your town, you walk in the front door of any bank, there is a plaque that says, hey, here's our board of directors. And the reason you have a board of directors is because you cannot have that particular enterprise vulnerable to losing one person. And a lot of times when you don't have but one person making all the decisions of the enterprise, and something happens to them, there's a cost to that. And so, Jess, we just try to get out in front of that and identify unique abilities and put the right hat on the right person on your enterprise, so that at some point, I mean, Tom was wearing a bunch of different hats. We give him one hat, and this is a really common, and is to become the chief wisdom officer, so that they have a place, they have a skill set that we need. They have wisdom that is very valuable. So it's just a matter of changing hats so that the enterprise can continue and thrive, and we don't have these interruptions that cause us a big delay in income or wealth. It's a wealth transfer. So if we don't have, if we plan for that and prepare for it, hey, that's money in our tank that we didn't drain because an event happened that we couldn't, that's going to happen anyway, but it's a wealth transfer. And so if we can just maintain as much of that wisdom and as possible, hey, that's a great day. That's kind of the story of the book. We didn't have any conflict in the book. There's enough of that to go around. Everybody understands that. So, but it's a good story. It's a blueprint for how to do succession right. Where we want to go from here? You want some questions? You want more information?
We can open it up for questions if there's any questions right at this point in time, and then maybe we could walk through kind of what an interview process with you would be. Sure.
Go right ahead. Be glad to. I know there's a lot of questions that go along with this. So let's if anybody's got anything that's glaring right now that they want to discuss or talk about. I don't want to talk about tax or governance here, because that's but all the other areas of this audience, let's do that. But I don't want to have to get on here and give tax advice or legal advice. So we'll leave that up to those experts. But other than that, I feel good. So let's try that.
Any questions, anybody on the call today?
Well, let me share this with you. A lot of times this gets really complicated in a hurry. And a lot of folks get overwhelmed with this process and they stop. The two biggest dangers on any plan are procrastination and a suicide. And I gave a presentation a couple of weeks ago, and this guy stands up at the back and he said, "Did you say suicide?" And I said, "No, I said assume aside. And everybody just assumes that it's going to be okay. They assume that everybody's going to get along. They assume that somebody's going to continue ranching. And suicide is a terrible thing. It never works. But in procrastination, and hey, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to work on that. I want to get that put in place. And then you have an event. You have a heart event. You have a death. You have a disability, or you have, more commonly, what's happening now, cognitive impairment. Something goes wrong with the ability to make good decisions, and then everything comes off the rails because you don't have any type of plan or governance to manage that, to work around that. So I can't stress that enough, how important not procrastinating the process and not assuming, because those are the two biggest dangers to any enterprise. If we can get past those and get started, it's better than it was. It's not perfect, but it's better than it was.
Brent, so many things come to mind here, and Maggie's going to walk through some questions, and a lot of times that we find in these next gen interactions, which I enjoy so much, is you start kind of. There's Morgan's got his hand up, and Morgan's one that I can tell some stories. He's going to ask some great stories. You know what? I'm going to actually have Morgan go first because my follow up might rattle the situation. So Morgan, why don't you ask yours? If you're like me, you forget your question. So I got one that's been lingering. So Morgan, why don't you or Maggie, I'll let you run the moderating deal there. Then I'll do a follow up to Morgan's deal.
Yeah, go ahead, Morgan. You're muted if you're.
Sorry,
can you hear me now?
Yeah, better,
Sure.
Morgan.
Go ahead,
Okay.
caller.
Sorry. Cell phone Zoom and me are becoming friends. So how everything in your example, and I guess I haven't read your book or anything, but there's the recognition of value to me. And so like, you know, the wife and the son, how do you go about having that conversation, or do you have tips for getting those producers or those operators to recognize the value that they bring to the table? You know, where my experiences so far is we have 30-year-old, 20-year-old farm kids who are back farming with dad, ranching with dad, and dad has complete control. And like you said, they got a lot of good ideas, and recognizing that how do you have that conversation with mom and dad that they bring value to the table that isn't a check? Because so many times I hear, and just hear it all the time still, well, I went up to my eyeballs in debt. It's time for them to go to their eyeballs in debt and pay it off. And it's like, these kids have helped build this empire that you have, if you will, and with their blood, sweat, and guts.
Yeah.
And now you want them to cut another check for it on top of, you wouldn't have this without those 30-year-old sons and daughters doing this. So how do you bring that point up of there is value that isn't signing a check, if that makes sense?
Morgan, it's a great question. And what's interesting to me is there's a tremendous amount of energy behind this transition movement right now. And it's being led by the 35-year-olds. And so I want to answer your question this way. You're running your business as a single person. Your family is your ranch, your enterprise, your farm is being run as a single person, operator, decision maker, financial officer. And I am convinced that you would be much better as an enterprise if you are running that as an enterprise. And so the interviews that we do to help identify where people's unique abilities are, and I don't know that you can do that, Morgan. I think you need somebody outside of the operation to do that. And to identify what your unique ability is and what your strengths are, and start building this thing as a real business. And I tell farmers and ranchers a lot of times, if you're driving in that gate out there for the very first time and you're looking to buy that ranch, you're an investor and you're going to buy that ranch to have that as an income property or whatever. Would you buy it? After you get a chance to look under the hood, and you get a chance to look at management, and you get a chance to understand what's going on, would you buy that enterprise as it is today? And the answer sometimes is pretty stunning to them. So if the answer is no, then why not? And so if we can start to build an enterprise that has some stop gaps on liability and danger, then let's do that. And let's find out what skill sets you have on your enterprise already that you're not utilizing. So there's no really good answer there because you asked a human question, but that's why I start with math and go back and say, all right, let's look and see what we got to work with. And so then we can start building a business structure around that. It's a great question, but we're dealing with a single person enterprise, and when we start looking at it as a business rather than just a lifestyle or that we've been used to for generations, and start building this thing the way it should be as a business that we could we could sell someday, if heaven forbid, if we ever wanted to. But think about it from that perspective. What's the value of this enterprise? Right now, it's one person dependent upon one person. If that person's not there, we got a problem. We just lost a lot of money. I'm building a tool right now in the final stages called the Do Nothing Calculator. And the Do Nothing Calculator is just, hey, plug in your net worth. Doesn't have to be exact, but I want it to illustrate the value of what the enterprise is worth. But if you do nothing, and we have this, what you're just talking about, dad dies, mom dies, whatever, and now it's into that 35-year-old or 40-year-old or whatever that has never been brought to the table. What is the cost that you just lost by not bringing them in earlier? What's the cost of probate? What's the cost of tax? What's the cost of a lost lending relationship? And so I'm building all those things in. So if you've got a $20 million net worth and you don't do these things, this is the financial equivalent to that impact. So I think that to answer your question, we want to illustrate the value that person brings, and we can quantify that. You don't think you can go out and hire that person to do that? Multiply that times a couple of years of outflow, and you can see exactly what that person's worth. So it's not a matter that it's not always the case where mom and dad need to turn over the ranch to you. That might be the worst thing that you could do from a tax perspective. And so, but it could be the greatest thing to build into the operating agreement. This is what we're doing. This is the expectation of that. This is the transition plan. So I hope that helps. It's not a clear answer, but it's kind of a roundabout way to get to that. Great question.
Thank you, Morgan. Jess, we can go back to you if there's not any other questions.
Yeah, again, Morgan. Hey, Morgan gave you a thumb. Well, you got that phone figured out pretty well.
He's doing pretty good, isn't he?
Thanks, partner. Yeah. I I think you touched on it. Morgan touched on it too. And this is where we find that kind of that nexus of doing policy at US Cattlemen's. And you see it all the time. And it's what just frankly inspires me so much about the membership and those involved in US Cattlemen's is the rugged individualism of a rancher. For every tough man that's out there, there's a woman that's twice as tough on that ranch. You mean, it's the daughter that comes in and okay, Matthew's going to do a follow up here. I don't want to hear that. And it's the blessing and the curse, right? Come into one of our policy meetings and see the curse, right? Which is rugged individualism. There is no way Washington will ever make sense to a rancher that's like, if the job ain't done, you work all night. If the job is hard, you work twice as hard. I mean, just the level of intensity and innovation, and there's so much that goes into these operations. So what it is and then the last thing we ever want to admit is any sense of our emotions. And having gone through a very traumatic situation this past summer, I've been nudged in the sessions following about the lack of interactions with my emotions. So I'm speaking a little bit from a personal side here. How do you sit down with someone if you're going to come to my operation? That rugged individualism has made it happen. That just never quit, can do attitude. That's why each and every one of these folks are successful. So as soon as you start layering back the layers of the onion, peeling back the layers of the onion, you're going to look into something that's very personal. And I don't know how I feel about it. Well, I tell you how I feel. I don't like it. And I know some of those times the only way it's, quote unquote profitable is because I just willed it into place. Or not I'll say because most ranchers just willed it into place. How do you build back an enterprise to, I'm sure what everyone's kind of building off what Morgan says is that the more we reveal, the more someone's like, hey, you've got some flaws in this. We all know our flaws. And I think we have to project a lot of times you have to project each and every day. How do you break down that emotional barrier where I don't want you to truly know. I want my sons and daughters to know they know it. Morgan will probably tell you they know it, that the struggle is there, but they don't want to sit and say, yeah, that struggles. But then you're like, no, it actually works. How do you break back not the fear factor, but just like these folks have willed everything into action. How can you pull back those layers? How do you do that? That's got to be the most challenging step one.
Yes, it is for some. It is. It really is. I really think that one of my unique abilities, I spent a lot of time with the strategic coach a long time ago. And one of the first things you do there is you identify your unique ability. What do you do better than anybody else in the world? What is it that Jess Peterson does that is so unique to him? And for Brent Turner, it's I've got it up on my wall. That is my unique ability.
We can.
It says facilitating positive results through coaching and collaboration with people using compassionate creativity to fulfill dreams. That took an entire day to get to that in an exercise, but it's exactly who I am. So the answer to your question is it's difficult for some, but it's one of my unique abilities. It's one of the things that I do better than that's what I do. So I ask questions and I be quiet and I listen. And a lot of times those barriers just kind of come down over time. I do it with confidentiality. So when I interview, I love interviewing 80-year-old ranchers. I just love that because there's 80 years of stories tied into that interview. And then I promise all of the members that I'm in of the family that I will not share with anybody what we talk about. And that way, my main objective with that is to get to the main thing. So everybody has a main thing. And then once I interview all of the family members and get their main thing, I bring it back to them as a themes meeting. I say, all right, here's what I've heard. And I don't point fingers, I don't name names, but in my interviews, this main thing came up. And the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And so once we identify that, hey, it's easy from there. So, I mean, it is an emotional process, but I have a unique ability to find out what is the main thing. And then once that happens, everybody agrees on the main thing, then we can design the business structure, we can design the governance, we can design everything, but we never ever lose sight of the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. How's that?
Man, I like it. Matthew
All
on
right.
the follow-up to Morgan. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Go right
Matthew on
ahead.
the follow-up to Morgan.
Yeah, Morgan, if you want to ask your follow-up question, you certainly can now. And then it looks like Whitney might have something to say also.
All right, you got me?
Oh, hi,
Go
Matthew.
right ahead,
Yep.
Matthew.
Okay, so to the follow-up, Brent, on Morgan, and I think to Jess's point, and that's where we're currently, my family is currently in a transition with another firm. But I will tell you that we came through it through negative and positive situations, right? Like most things do. My wife's grandparents passed away. Father-in-law took over the farm. We then he realized at that time he's getting to the point where he's not going to be able to continue this. He sees this. He knows that he has to make that plan. I believe, maybe you can correct me, but that is a unique situation where he's the one deciding this, hey, this is happening now. I'm looking at it from Morgan's perspective, like on my father's side. He's the type of guy, like Jeff said, very much of he willed it, he made it happen. Now, to Morgan's point, yes, we as kids helped build that, but there's a lot of pride in the fact that they did do the 24-hour, 12, 18, 20-hour shifts while us kids were maybe in school or doing whatever. So there's a lot of pride in that whole situation. And I can respect that, right? Doing that now myself, I get it. No one else will ever comprehend what the individual does to make this go. But I think the most common question I would say that I see from a perspective of a younger generation is how do you get them to even entertain the idea of this conversation? Because they see it as, yeah, I might have all these things going on. But again, it goes back to pride. There's the things that they want to do, and they want to make sure that they believe that they can still do it and they can still run with the 25-year-old, 30-year-olds, which we all know maybe isn't the case anymore. And trying to get them to a point where they can, I wouldn't say humility is the right word, but to where they can ask for help from a firm like yourself, right?
Yeah.
To say that's a very hard situation, in my opinion. I know that, like, I can only imagine in 15 years, 20 years, when my kid's 20 years old, I'm going to be like, yep, we're finally getting in the run of it. And we're getting to the point where, hey, things are paid off. We can get going. I can buy some things I want. But I should really be looking at that transition starting to happen within the 5 to 10 year range,
Where on the balance sheet does pride fall?
Oh, I agree. I don't disagree. But you tell me that to the 60, 65-year-old farmer that's wanting to go ahead and walk away eventually, but doesn't want to give up any of that.
Yeah, great, Matthew. Great question. Never heard that before. That's a common. It's really common. And what's really interesting is the entitlement factor sometimes of the young people that come in. They go, "Oh, I'm entitled to this. Give it to me now." And I'm not saying I shouldn't.
I firmly agree. And again, that's one thing I definitely told my siblings and everyone is that, hey, we are entitled to nothing. This is theirs. They can do with it what they want. If they choose to go ahead and go a different direction. But I agree, though, that is also a very common problem I see as well.
Yeah. So that's why I begin each process with the financial part of it, because we'll get bogged down in a lot of these emotions and things, and that's why I start with a financial plan. And so once I get my arms around the finances of the operation of the enterprise, I'm actually in a position where I can identify some areas that, that pride is costing you this pride that you speak of, this this entitlement that you speak of, these human emotions that we're dealing with, and it's on every enterprise, it's on every farm, it's every ranch, because of the blood, sweat, and tears we put in. That's what you got sometimes. Sometimes you don't have the money to show, but you've got an emotion to go with it. I worked this hard and I got this, or I got nothing, but I've got my pride or whatever. But that's why we go at it from a business perspective. No other industry in the country, everybody, the guy in your town that has a tire shop or an insurance agency or whatever, they've got the same work experience. They've got the same experiences of staying up all night fixing a problem. The guy that runs the plumbing operation, they've got the same thing, because that's an entrepreneurial mindset. They got to get it done. The unfortunate part about that is these farming and ranching enterprises now are so valuable. The numbers are huge. And so there's a lot more at risk. And there's not a lot of skill sets that you can go buy immediately to take over that person's job. So building a financial plan and hey, look, you're not here yet, but let's figure out what that's cost, what that's worth, and let's pay you for that. Let's figure out a way for an enterprise to pay you for that. Because otherwise you're going to get tired at some point. I'm going to town and get a job. I got to. And so I like to put a financial plan together so that we can get the mom and dads paid. We can get a rental agreement. We can get an employment agreement. We can get things going so everybody is not just busting their butt for pride, and tie it to a financial plan. So sometimes, it doesn't work. Sometimes it does, but it's better than it was more times than not. So I hope that helps, but it's not a one sentence answer on that. It's a human factor, and that's why we're in this business, is because we're humans. Does that help, Matthew?
Yes and no. I understand what you're saying. I mean, inherently, yeah, we have a few different businesses, and I think that, yeah, I get it. Like if you take out the emotions, but the downside is that farmers and ranchers are extremely emotional, whether they want to admit it or not, right? You take that cow into town that you have helped raise from a calf.
It's ownership.
Yeah.
It's ownership.
And so, but the question, I think, the root of the question was really, how do we get, me being a 35-year-old, how do I get my 60-year-old father to say, yeah, maybe this is something we should start looking at? Or because I can speak to him and tell him blue in the face. I could slide him your book and say, hey, take a read.
That's a good place to start, I believe. I really do, because it's the same story.
Yeah. Okay. No, and that's I guess what I'm trying to figure out. And I agree with what you're saying again, but he's not a reader type of a situation, and that'd work for me, but it wouldn't work for potentially him. And so that's where I'm kind of like, hey, how does that conversation start?
Here's the thing. If you start wearing all those hats and they start seeing how they stack up there,
agreed.
It's hard.
Yep.
It's hard. And that's where we actually like to transition to a chief wisdom officer. They want to be involved because they've got ownership and they don't want you to mess it up. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about dinner. They don't want somebody else to mess it up because they don't believe that you can do it as good as they did it.
Understood.
And that's where, that's where we have to start commending them for the job they've done and identifying the dangers in your enterprise. Look, if we don't do this, this is what it's going to cost. And put a dollar figure with that. That's why I start with finances. That's my approach, because we're going to run into those emotional things that are going to hang us up. But if we can figure out the main thing, get the finances understood, and then you know what? Look, I'm sorry, but you've built this thing. But the main thing is that Matthew's generation gets to continue it. They're not going to do it like you did it. They may not do it as good as you did it, but they're going to continue to do it because that's their passion. So what I need you to do is to consider wearing a different hat. He needs your help.
Right.
He
No, I
needs
agree.
you.
And it's the form of flattery to go ahead and acknowledgement of that. Yeah, and that makes sense.
But it's true. It's
Yep, no,
100% true.
100%. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, thank
Great
you.
question. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Matthew, so much. Whitney, did you have something to participate in the call today? Looks like
There we
it's
go.
cold out there.
Yeah, trying to feed out everything this morning. Yeah, hi, thank you for
Morning,
being
Whitney.
on. Yes, I'm out feeding right now. So
It looks cold wherever you are.
yeah, I'm in Northeast Montana.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 20 here, so
All right. Good.
yeah. I guess my question is, you obviously you've talked a little bit about the siblings of, maybe having one that's on kind of the main operator on a ranch,
Right.
and there's other siblings, and maybe they want to live on the farm and ranch and kind of have that lifestyle, but really not contribute to the day-to-day operations, or even offering any other I guess any other services, like you had talked about
They're
one
not
person.
contributing to the operation.
Yeah, yep.
Right.
So, but they want to live out here and, take part in the lifestyle and everything. So I don't know, do you have any advice on, how to maybe, I mean, best involve them, or
That's interesting. That was the same situation in the book with
mhm,
with the daughter. And what we found out in the interview process is that Sarah, the daughter, really wanted to be involved. But she didn't want to challenge her brother because she
yeah,
didn't want to take away that space. But what we found out in that interview was that she had a unique ability for marketing. I'm not saying that your sibling's going to have that unique ability for any of the job skills that are required on your
mhm,
operation. I'm not saying that, but if they want to be, and we find out that they do have a unique ability, then let's see where that fits. If it doesn't, then we have to create some type of buy-sell arrangement so that, hey, when this transition takes place, that you're going to walk away with something, but it's not the ranch.
yeah, yep,
And so you got to find equality, you got to find fairness in there, if according to your family, and your family is different than the ranch next door.
yeah,
And so it's not a one size answer on that, but it has to be discussed, because if we don't, it goes to probate.
sure, yeah, and
And you can quantify what that costs, and then you got
mhm,
to settle the estate.
mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's
and I
easier
think
done
it's
today.
yeah, I think it's, definitely the situation of the sibling doesn't want to, step on the toes of her brother,
Right.
and yeah, and just wants to be there and raise her family, in the
Yeah.
same way. But
It's doable. We just got to figure
yeah,
out the math.
yeah, exactly. And I think you hit that nail on the head of, maybe she does want to be involved in other aspects that, we maybe not know about right now, but
Right.
yeah, so conversations always need to be had. So, and that, I think that's a huge thing. That's one thing, you know, the family, my husband and his parents, they've been very open communication about, kind of what their transition plan is and everything. But, obviously there's things happen, especially if somebody dies suddenly, or somehow things change in a hurry, so it's always just good to have
Whitney,
that.
your situation is the same as a cattle rancher in Ocala, Florida.
Mm-hmm,
It's the same story. We're humans. We're
mm-hmm,
predictable.
mm-hmm,
And the neat thing about that is, and this is where I feel strongly that we need to start running these businesses like enterprises,
mm-hmm.
because they are. And so we're going to get this information one way or the other, either when we read the will,
Yeah, or
or
beforehand, yeah.
or
Mm-hmm.
or we build out a business structure today that includes everybody, and we deal with it, because we got to deal with it one way or the other.
Yeah,
And the danger is we lose sight of the main thing, and the main thing is to keep the main thing, and keep this enterprise going. Because if we lose these generations, we have a hiccup here, it never comes back.
yeah, Yep.
And we have to sell the ranch at a fire sale
Yeah.
to settle an estate. That is not what I desire, nor do
No.
you.
Mm-mm.
No. Maggie, how much time we got?
We still got time. We can ask some questions if there's
Okay.
still any others, or I guess Brent, is there anything else that you wanted to hit on upon?
Yes, you hadn't gotten to your question yet.
I did. I gave you that whole one, man. That was the deal. How do you break it all down? Then we kept going, man. So you nailed it. Thank you. And I'm the Brent Turner on the next call at top of the hour. So I don't have the backdrop that you have. If you can snap a picture of your backdrop, I'm going to use it.
Quit it.
For my next call, and I got, if you can send me some caps. So, anyways, no,
Which one do you want? You want to wear all of them, or
all
you
of them. Are you know me, brother, man. I want to tell other people to change their lives, but I'm not going to do that. Come on now.
You know what? So I tell you what, I appreciate you letting me share with you guys this morning. I would encourage you to do one thing. Go to my website, Agri-Generational.com. And at the top of the site is an initial readiness assessment. And it's a free quiz. It's 20 questions. It takes about 4 or 5 minutes to answer. And see the free there, Maggie, thank you. Take the free quiz. Now, what's important about it, it's going to give you a score of 1 to 10 of how well prepared you and your enterprise are for the next generation. And but the other thing about that is it's going to you have to put your email in there, and that is going to get you, every week we send out a newsletter, and it's just information for you. It's not, it's good stuff. And then as we develop these tools, as we start to develop all these tools, you'll be the first to get them. So like the do nothing calculator, share that with your team. So, hey, if we do nothing, this is what it's going to cost our ranch. And start quantifying all these questions and concerns you have that are emotional or pride-based or whatever, or preparedness. If we don't do this, what's it going to cost us? And guys, you'll be amazed. As I was designing this tool, you're going to be amazed at how many millions and millions and millions of dollars that you're going to lose unnecessarily just by not being prepared. So if I were to walk onto your ranch and say, hey, you're worth $20 million a day, but tomorrow it's worth 15, what are you going to do? You're going to do every dang thing you can to stop that, aren't you? If your cow herd is going to decrease by 25% overnight, the value of your cow herd, what are you going to do? Everything you can. Why would you not do it the same with this part of your planning? So put the tools.
Great words. What great words to end the call with today. Thank you again, Brent, so much for everything. We really do appreciate you jumping on the call today.
Glad to be a part.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us as we walk into Thanksgiving next week. I do just want to say thank you to everyone that has been a part of these calls. Really do appreciate everything. And thank you for bringing food to the plate on our tables every day. Brent,
Go to Amazon and buy Piece of Land, PEACE. It's available there. Makes great Christmas gifts too, by the way.
Is it on Audible?
That it does.
It will be on Audible. I've got my studio set up. I'm ready to record. I can't sit down long enough to get it done, but I'm going to be recording it on Audible as well. And Maggie, with your permission, we'll drop that link to them when it's available.
Yes, certainly so. All righty. Well, thank you guys. And if you guys want to
have an
share this
awesome
with
day. Awesome day.
Yeah, if you want to share this with your family, go certainly. The recording will hopefully be up by end of today, if not tomorrow, onto either the uscattlemans.org or on our YouTube channel. So definitely pass this around and share it with everyone you know. Thank you guys and have a great Thanksgiving.